Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show. Boy, I've been pumping these out a lot lately because there's a lot going on, especially with Ohio State football. Joining me is a guy, uh, some of you love him, some of you hate him, but boy, you can't get enough of him. Dave Jones of PennLive.com, the most watched, the most sought after .com in the state of Pennsylvania. He's been around Penn State football for a long time. But before that, he was around Ohio State football in the Columbus area where he grew up for a long time. Dave Jones, welcome back to the Tim May Show.
I rode the King Air. Remember the King Air?
I remember the
Wolf.
Of course, I remember the
King
King Air.
You don't remember my very first college football game, big time college football game they ever covered was Ohio State at Minnesota. Were you even doing the beat then?
What year are we talking about? 81? When are we talking about?
84.
84. That was my first year on the beat, but I made some of those trips too before that. But yeah, dude, it was great when we had our own Air Force.
Yeah.
2 King Airs and a Convair.
Lou Holtz was the Minnesota coach.
Yeah. I've told that story a million times about Lou Holtz at the Big Ten meetings that year where they went around in reverse order and they had put a fish in the fountain at the Hyatt Regency there on Wacker Drive in Chicago. And they said, instead of playing football this year, we're just going to put this fish in this fountain, and whoever catches this fish, their team's going to the Rose Bowl. And they went in reverse order of how the teams finished the year before. And they worked around, and Bo Schembechler had a rod and reel, didn't catch the fish. Earl Bruce used a bow and arrow, didn't catch the fish, blah, 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 right on down the line. There were only 10 teams then, by the way. So this won't take as long as you thought. Finally, they get to Lou Holtz. And Lou Holtz kneels down next to the fountain, pulls a teaspoon out of his back pocket, dips a teaspoon in the fountain, throws the water over his shoulder, and does that again and again and again until finally this little old lady walks up behind him. This is Lou Holtz telling this story. And this little old lady walks up behind me. She goes, "Lou Holtz, what do you think you're doing?" And I looked around at her as I dipped that spoon into the water and flipped it over my shoulder. I said, "Ma'am, I'm going to the Rose Bowl." That's one of the greatest stories ever. But we digress because we don't have that much time.
He probably spent 5 minutes telling that.
Oh, he did. He when you're an after dinner speaker, you learn how to stretch that stuff like taffy. I got a Mickey Mantle story that I stretched like taffy.
All right,
but that's another story.
You have guests on, and all you do is talk.
Yeah, I know. That's what Gordon Gee said to me one time. He said, "Tim May's the only guy I've ever known who asks and answers the question all at the same time." So, anyway, but I digress. Let's get right to it. You've known Bill O'Brien longer than most people should, or as long as most people should, maybe. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Former head coach at Penn State who stepped in the worst of times and immediately, in my opinion, brought a renaissance to that program way back when the Jerry Sandusky episode and Joe Pye was ousted, et cetera. Then went on to the Houston Texans. In between, he had stints. Well, not in between, but he had stints with Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots before Penn State, and then a stint with the Houston Texans as the head coach, and then a stint with Alabama as offensive coordinator, and then went back
to Nick Saban's coach rehab program.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, this guy's coached for the two GOATs, man. Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. They both trusted him as offensive coordinator, et cetera. Now he's at Ohio State. Dave Jones, are you stunned by what's happened over the last last month or so? Because you're an Ohio State aficionado as much as you are a Penn State aficionado. But what does Bill O'Brien bring to Ohio State? Because there are some naysayers out there about his hiring. I'm not one of them. You're not one of them. Tell me why you're not one of them.
I always thought the guy knew exactly who he was. And I think a coordinator absolutely has to know who he is, bring that style, and bring it to a T, man. If you know who you are and understand what you think works best with your guys, then you're going to be secure in your own skin. And Bill O'Brien is secure in his own skin, if nothing else. Huh. And I think Ryan Day got him because he wants his offense to be tougher. He wants his team to be tougher. I mean, Michigan hit a sweet spot here. I think Jim Harbaugh hit a sweet spot where Mark D'Antonio all of a sudden was out, Urban Meyer was all of a sudden out, to two very tough grinder coaches. And all of a sudden, these two programs who have given him all sorts of trouble, they're gone. And Jim Harbaugh kind of regressed back to his smash mouth persona that he was at Stanford with big, tough running back, sometimes 12 personnel. And they've been tougher, I think, than Ohio State. And Ohio State they thought they recognized that a couple of years ago, and they haven't done anything about it. Bill O'Brien will, by necessity, make them tougher because he's going to run an offense that they'll have to be tougher or it will fail. He's going to run a lot of that stuff that I just talked about. I don't know if a running back like Travion Henderson would be his kind of go-to running back, but he will do a running back by committee, but he will run those running backs. He will have a balanced offense. I think Ohio State, watching this from a Penn State viewpoint, got a little too much into what Penn State does. They became a little too finesse, a little too enamored with speed on defense instead of just popping guys, a little too much enamored with vertical passing game. And that's great. You need a vertical passing game. But I don't think Ohio State has been tough enough to beat Michigan in the trenches the last 3 years. That's been their problem. You remember Jim Harbaugh had Josh Gaddis at his offensive coordinator, and Gaddis was supposed to, bring the nouveau spread offense into Michigan. And after a little while, they came to loggerheads. It didn't work because that's not Jim Harbaugh. And he finally came to the revelation that this ain't going to work. And basically he said, I'm taking over. I'm going to lose my way. Remember the old Bill Parcells quote?
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to lose my way. I guess that was 1983 or something like that. Remember Jimmy the Greek was on saying, Brent, Bill Parcells is in trouble. And I think it was the 83 season with the Giants. And beginning in 84, he started doing it his way. And a coach has to be secure enough to do that. I don't think Ryan Day is very secure right now. You can tell me what you think, but Bill O'Brien, in my opinion, is an attempt to make them tougher on offense.
Well, this is interesting. By the way, 3 words I haven't heard in a long time: Jimmy the Greek.
No kidding.
and then past that, here's the thing: Ohio State scored 3 points against Missouri. I don't care who your starting quarterback was, who your backup quarterback was. Ohio State, I mean, that just doesn't happen. It goes back to 31-0, the loss to Clemson in the college football playoff semifinal at the Fiesta Bowl way back in 2016 season. The last time Ohio State looked at really
they needed a reboot then too.
They did. That's exactly what Urban Meyer did going into 2017. And Ryan Day, I know, looked in that mirror on January, if he ever went to sleep on after that game on December 29th, looked in that mirror on December 30th and just said, Murphy, I think he'd already done that. I think he already had his epiphany about things, but one of which was, he dabbled with the idea of stepping away from play calling, et cetera, a year ago this time, went back into it because he, realized Brian Hartline had only been a coach for 6 years. And number 2, it was going to be a first-time offensive coordinator, and realized that probably wasn't going to work out well. Plus, he missed it. Bottom line is Ryan Day did not give up the reins. But now he's giving up the reins to that stuff, it appears, because Bill O'Brien's coming in with Express. Probably with the idea that he's going to call plays, he's going to run the offense. It's not going to be the Bill O'Brien offense, but it's going to be the Bill O'Brien contributions to the Ohio State offense. They're not going to get away from spreading the field and doing all those kind of things. But my point is, this is a moment in time for Ryan Day, head coach, going into his 6th year as a head coach, that he brings in a guy with the reputation and the caliber of a Bill O'Brien, in essence, an equal, for want of another term, in that offensive room, who's going to run that offensive room. He's going to coach the quarterbacks.
He's going to do a couple things that you don't know if Brian Hartline could do. And Brian Hartline has done great stuff.
Oh, yeah. Nobody's putting up Brian Hartline down here.
Brian Hartline is the biggest reason that Ohio State has dominated Penn State the last 6 years. because their wide receiver room has kicked Penn State's ass the whole time. And
When
it's
it
like
mattered.
this
Yeah.
big a difference.
Yeah.
But you don't know if Brian Hartline can A, coach quarterbacks in the way that he wants the offense run, or B, call plays for an entire offense. You don't know if he can do that. You do know Bill O'Brien can do it
Yeah.
because he's done it. I mean, this guy turned Matt freaking McGloin into a 4-year NFL pro, and he
Yeah.
did it in 1 year. I saw it, and Christian Hackenberg wasn't worth a damn in any year except that the year that Bill O'Brien had him. Now,
Yeah.
when you said that I know Bill O'Brien as well as any, that's not true. I only knew him in those 2 years. I didn't know him before those 2 years. You're talking about 2012, 2013, and I haven't talked to him after. But I saw with my own eyes what he did with two completely different guys and turned them into completely different quarterbacks.
Here's
He knows
what,
how to
yeah.
do that. And he's got a situation here where he's going to have a rookie quarterback in the Big Ten who's never seen any of these defenses. He knows this league because he knows college football. So whether it's Will Howard or one of the two hot recruits, it doesn't matter. He's going to pick out the one who is the most coachable, who's the most intelligent, who's the most able to absorb information because he is a quarterback guru. He knows what he's doing with quarterbacks if he's got material, if he can pick the material. He didn't have the material in Boston and with Mac Jones. He didn't, and these guys after that, after he got hurt. You could say this guy went 4-13 with and had an awful offense. Well, this is a whole different thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think Will Howard will probably be the choice. He has had problems with being erratic sometimes at Kansas State under Chris Kleeman. But on the other hand, they have done everything possible to unseat him at Kansas State. And the kid is resilient. He can take coaching. He can be coached hard. Could you be coached hard, Tim May? Could you
You
be
know
coached
what?
hard?
I absolutely could. John McNeely used to coach me hard when he was
That's
assistant
right.
sports editor.
That's right.
I
He
remember,
coaches all hard.
I had a penchant for being right on time. Is that the right way of putting it? Right on time. And something would happen, and John McNeely told me, you know what? One day he goes, Timbo, he goes, sometimes you just got to say, I screwed up and move on instead of basically looking at other reasons, other people of why you had your situation.
Yeah,
And from then on, I have done that, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
you were involved in something that happened to me. For people who have no idea who we're talking about our old assistant sports editor who really was the sports editor.
Oh, yeah.
He was the guy with the hands on every day. And if they don't have things on time, if they're like 4 or 5 minutes late, you've been given a deadline of when your copy needs to be in, especially back then.
Yeah.
It had to be in then because print was everything. Print was everything. And if it wasn't in so that the presses could get rolling, it backed everything up and it pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
I came in with an Otterbein basketball story or something like 6 minutes late, and I'd done it over and over a couple times. They always work it out. They humor me. And I could write. I was a good writer, and I was the young hot shot. And I came in.
Wait a minute. Hot shot. Key word there. Now go ahead.
I came in from Westerville, all happy with my beautiful story that was perfect. And I was giving it little tweaks here and there. And that's why I was 6 minutes late. And he told me, I looked, and I said, where's my story? And he said, we didn't put it in. I had Tim May rewrite your story from Wire. And I never freaking forgot that in my life.
Hey, you're welcome, by the way. You're welcome.
That's being coached hard. Yeah.
That is being coached hard and ridden hard and put up wet, as the old saying goes. Now let's get back to this real quick before we move on to Will Howard, who you know a lot about. For a guy living in Pennsylvania, you sure know a lot about what's going on over here. And by the way, I should have said Bill O'Brien better than I know him instead of better than anybody.
Yeah,
I should have cast you with that. That was hyperbole. I didn't mean to be hyperbole. I meant to be factual. But Bill O'Brien, it's no surprise, as you well know, Nick Saban retired from football at Alabama, and Bill O'Brien was the offensive coordinator at Alabama through 2022. and went back to the New England Patriots. Julian Sayin, the #1 quarterback recruit in the country in 2024, committed to Alabama when Bill O'Brien was there and Nick Saban was there. And now all of a sudden, like I said earlier, Ohio State is immediately reaps benefits in the recruiting ranks from having Bill O'Brien, because Julian Sayin from Carlsbad, California, decided to follow Bill O'Brien to Ohio State.
Oh,
And,
when did that happen? Did that
that happened over the weekend on Saturday
that got by
or
me?
Sunday. And that's the point. The point is,
so now you got 3 big time recruits.
oh, dude, they've got Aaron Nolan, Julian Sayin, Will Howard, and then, of course, Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenholz, the 2 guys that were left from the 2020, 2022, 2023 quarterback
Wasn't
room.
there another kid? There was a 4-star from someplace.
Well, Aaron Nolan was a 4 and he turned into a 5-star.
No, I don't mean him. I mean another.
I don't know who else you're talking. We don't need to get
Okay.
into that. Those are the 5 they've got now.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, well, Cal McCord went to Syracuse. So the starter last year transferred to Syracuse. Yeah, it's been an interesting quarterback room that they're taking they're taking the snapshots of the quarterback room every day just to make sure who's in there and who isn't in there, from coaches to players, et cetera now. But he's already reaped the benefit, Ryan Day has, of hiring Bill O'Brien. I mean, not that Julian Sayin almost picked Ohio State the first time around, but the bottom line is, Bill, as much as that hard knocks stuff with him and the Houston Texans preseason camp, him and Mike Vrabel trading F-bombs, et cetera, through that. I don't know if you watched that or not, but as much as he's known for his F-bombs, I've always liked him, man, from afar. And then the few times I got to know him.
It doesn't matter whether we like him.
No, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, I always thought he was sharp.
The quarterbacks who played for him like him.
Yes.
And they like him. I mean, I can't tell you. Tom Brady sang about him. I mean, he screamed and yelled with Tom Brady all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was first hired here, the most notoriety he had was having a big sideline blow up with Tom Brady. And
correct.
And Tom Brady loved it. You could say that anyone could coach Tom Brady, but the fact is Tom Brady loved Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
They're going to have an interesting ramp up, an easy ramp up period with 3 canned hams on the. How good is Marshall? How good is Marshall? Are they any good?
Yeah, I mean,
Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall is what.
Yeah, they're credible. I mean, Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, they're credible opponent. Marshall's a credible opponent.
So then their first real test is on the road, but it's at Michigan State, who is going to be rebuilding again. And then they got Iowa at home. This is an opportunity for Bill O'Brien to pick, to try out a couple of guys. They could maybe not even decide on somebody in camp. Is that possible?
Well, here's the thing. Here the interesting thing to watch here.
They didn't really decide between McCord and Brown until the first game, did they?
But that was to keep both of them there more than anything else. But it was close. I mean, by anybody's estimation, of course we don't get to watch practice for the most part, but it was close. It was day to day who was leading that competition, according to both of those quarterbacks and according to Ryan Day. So who else word you going to take for it? I don't know. Some Johnny come lately peering through the fence. I don't know. But the bottom line is, what's really going to be interesting is the spring, because the 2 holdovers have been there now. Lincoln Keenholz will be there almost a year. Devin Brown will be going into his 3rd year. Will Howard has won a Big 12 championship at Kansas State, and I think is a credible quarterback. We're going to get to him in a minute because you've known him since he was a pup, as John Cooper would say. And then Aaron Nolan,
that
big time recruit.
Either, but go ahead.
Aaron Nolan, big time recruit, and Julian Sayin, uber recruit. So the spring promises to be the real, because they're all going to be there. The spring promises to be a real situation, because April, I think 15th or 16th is the next time the transfer portal opens for 15 days. And we'll see who jumps in it right after spring football is over, or if anybody does. But Bill O'Brien is going to have to hit the ground running in the talent perusal department and see where it goes. Does it help? Who does it help more? Will Howard, having been a longtime starter at Kansas State and a credible quarterback, in my opinion, pretty good quarterback, or Julian Sayin, having been a guy that Bill O'Brien helped recruit at Alabama and really likes going from the get-go.
No, that was news to me when you told me that he's coming in, because that's a factor. That's definitely a factor. I think Sand probably has an inside track on Noland, for instance, as even though Noland's this hot recruit. That's a factor as far as Howard's concerned. But let me tell you this about Will Howard. I mean, you know that they brought Martinez in to try to transfer over from Nebraska over the top of him. That didn't work out. They had a 4-star at Kansas State, whose name escapes me, who started a few games. He's never started 12 games in a season, not even close, because they keep trying to replace him, and he keeps beating out whoever they keep trying to replace him with. So what I'm telling you about Will Howard is he is resilient. He is from where I am right now, Downingtown, Pennsylvania. He's from here. It's a Philadelphia, Collier County, Philadelphia suburb. And he's played with a lot of kids I know about, but I don't know Will Howard. I also know who was kind of his business manager, who was a Leslie Goodell, who was a star on the air here, who was handling his business functions for a little while. So I know people who know him.
Wait a minute. Dave, remember, even 5 years ago, his business manager.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, dude, we're so into another era.
She was in sports management for a little while. And I talked to her a couple days ago, and I talked to a friend of my kids who went to Downingtown. They went to Downingtown East, and they know Will Howard really well. He's younger. He's 3 years younger. Yeah. But he had to come into the game. Downingtown East, Downingtown West is this huge rivalry. And he played for Downingtown West, Will Howard did. He had to come in the game when he was a freshman. Everyone loves this kid. Yeah. They love him because he's intellectually all there, because he's all about his work and preparation. That'll be great for Bill O'Brien. I mean, Bill O'Brien really appreciates that. And because he's resilient as hell. Yeah. And I don't mean physically, I mean emotionally. Gotcha. They keep trying to knock this kid down, and he keeps beating everyone they put in front of him. Like a 16-pound ball thrown by Johnny Petraglia, knocking him down.
Yeah, knocking him down.
With that cranker action.
Hanging on the edge, baby, and then coming back to break your heart.
He keeps knocking these pins down.
Right, so in the pocket.
That's what I'll tell you about Will Howard. Now, negatively, he hasn't always been so accurate. He's playing with an offense where, I mean, who was the kid they had? I think the best kid they had there was like 5'6", the best kid he played with. They didn't have nearly the material that Ohio State has. Chris Kleeman's a really good quarterback but you know, he's a Dakota guy.
Yeah, sure.
He's doing more with less. That's the antithesis of Ohio State, which has done less with more in a lot of people's opinion, because they've got all this ammo. Yeah. I think he'll do really well with Bill O'Brien. We'll see. But I think he's going to be the starter. I really do, even considering all these great gee whiz recruits, because Will Howard was never that. He was never a hotshot recruit.
Yeah. Hey, well, hang on just a second. Let me get the little word in. Speaking of business manager, you know, we got business managers at lettermenrow.com, but you know, Game Time, the Game Time app, gametime.co, that's fast becoming the place to go when you've blown it, man. You've forgotten to get tickets for that big time sporting event in your area. Or you're planning on a sporting event down the road, like the Super Bowl. Game Time, that's the place to go if you want to find your Super Bowl tickets here in a couple of weeks. Game Time app, remember, you download the Game Time app and you make your first purchase and you use the promo code Buckeyes, Buckeyes, you get $20 off your first purchase. And the other Game Time app guarantee is that if you find a ticket in the same general section, the same row, for less than what you paid for at Game Time on the Game Time app, Game Time will refund you 110% of the difference. 110% of the difference. That's a guarantee. Now, of course, with everything, terms do apply. But Game Time, gametime.co, that's the place to go for your late minute tickets, or if you're planning ahead, that's the place to go. Like if you want to go to the U.S. Figure Skating Championships this week in Columbus, Ohio, that's the place to go if you've put it off. But I hope you've also saved up money, because that's a very expensive ticket. But Game Time app, gametime.co, that's the place to go when you've put off buying those tickets or you're wanting to plan ahead. let's get back. Speaking of planning ahead, Dave Jones.
No, I gotta inject something here. You remember this Ohio guarantee?
Uh-huh.
If you had fuel line freeze up,
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
if you will go, or Ohio will pay your tow.
Pay the tow. So Ohio. That's how far back you are. So Ohio and
I
Jimmy
know.
Creek.
I'm an Ohio State grad, 1983 industrial design. Yeah.
A three-word phrase and a three-syllable word. That's how far we've gone back in this thing. Jimmy the Greek and So Ohio. So Ohio. But I digress. I've got you on, Dave. I'm gonna get a couple more thoughts from you. Number one, when you saw James Franklin listed as a candidate for the Alabama football job, your first reaction.
Jimmy Sexton is the greatest agent ever. That was my only reaction.
Not to be confused with Jimmy the Greek. Yeah.
Because we both know that that was absurd.
Yeah.
That there was no way in hell he would ever even get a sniff of an interview at Alabama.
Have you ever seen more coaches get more raises and more extensions out of one job? I mean,
my question for you is, would you want that job? Did we talk about this? Would
I
you
think I
really want
would.
that job? Yeah, but you're from there.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been indoctrinated into that whole mafia.
No, I know, but I know where you're going with this. I
But,
mean, I talked to Paul Feinbaum about this, man.
Who could follow Nick Saban?
Nobody.
I remember talking. Who was the old Packers center? I can't think of his name.
Bill Curry.
I talked to Bill Curry when O'Brien was hired on what it's like trying to follow a legend. And you remember he quit after 3 years.
Oh yeah,
after 10-2
Trey Perkins was the first guy to follow Bear.
Yeah,
and then Bill Curry.
He wasn't even the first guy to follow. He was the guy who followed the guy who followed.
Yeah.
And you remember Lou Holtz? I'd forgotten this.
Yeah.
But they came to Lou Holtz after Woody was fired, and he said, "No, I don't think I want to follow Woody Hayes. I might follow the guy who followed the guy who follows Woody Hayes."
Yeah. Yeah.
But he told him to pound sand because he was at where was he?
Arkansas.
Yeah, they wanted him to go through the interview process.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't really want to follow Woody Hayes anyway.
So then he came up with some cute euphemism to explain himself.
Yeah, of course. But I don't know why anyone would want that job. And I think Kalen DeBoer made a mistake. When Dan Lanning didn't take it, what does that tell you, man? That's a guy who knows the NHL.
But boy, Dan Lanning, man, you're sitting there at Oregon in the name, image, and likeness era.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're still what I mean, and Phil Knight and everything that Nike means and stuff.
Buddy, Washington is just as good. You got a major metro there in Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, those people are on board and they make every bit as much money as Oregon does.
Yeah.
Those are powerful programs. You're going to find out when you go out there to Eugene or Seattle, and you're going to Eugene.
I've been to Seattle several times. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's out there.
It is out there, but those people care about their sports and they care about college football.
Yeah.
I mean, Kalen DeBoer did not have to leave that. He had a feathered nest. He'd beaten Lanning 3 straight times. I just think he made a mistake because he didn't know about the South. He didn't know about the SEC. He's going to be a fish out of water there. And I don't think you can possibly follow Nick Saban.
I think it's going to be very tough. But here's the thing you have to jump on, Dave. You understand how these guys think. How many times in your coaching lifetime, your coaching career, is Alabama going to come open? You know, it may be like between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
Into any of those guys.
Gene Stallings had the one run there with the national championship. They even drove him away. But it may be multiple times. It may be just twice, or something. If you have a shot at it, you almost are obligated to yourself to take it because it's still Alabama, man.
That circles back around to Bill O'Brien.
Yeah.
Because when he took this job here, I mean, it was toxic. You had several different aspects of it. It wasn't just the Sandusky scandal, but you were also following a legend in Paterno. And if you're there and you're seeing this thing unfold, you don't understand what we call as the Joe bots who are the people
Oh,
who
yeah.
will support Joe Paterno, hell or high water. And
Yeah.
so the first thing I told him was when I met him is you're gonna start these people are gonna get on your nerves. And you remember
Oh,
when after Woody Hayes,
oh, yeah.
those people were there,
Yeah.
and Earl Bruce got perturbed and annoyed. Old 9-3 Earl. It has
And he went
happened.
11. He went 11-0 his first regular season and
Yeah,
almost won a national championship.
three points
Yeah.
from the 1979 national championship,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then within a couple of years they wanted him gone. I
Yeah.
mean, it
93.
it's tough following a legend, man.
Yeah.
But Bill O'Brien took this job and in many ways rebranded the place in his image. And then James Franklin on top of that completely rebranded it. And you don't really hear about Joe Paterno anymore around here,
Yeah.
except for those the weirdos, the Joe bots is what we
The
call
good
them.
old days. Yeah.
And Sandusky is kind of that whole thing that we thought would be a super fun site and that would the stench of it would never go away. You really don't hear about it around here
Yeah.
at all. I
And,
don't know what you hear about in
and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I want to clarify. He said super fund, not super fun. Super fund site. I just want to clear that up for everybody because some people who listen to this are hard of hearing. You know what I mean?
that was the federal fund that took care of toxic waste.
Correct. Brownfields took care of brownfields, et cetera. Boy, man, you talk about. Anyway, let's don't go there. Let's go one other place I want to go. Just when Michigan has really got it rolling, their head coach could be somewhere else before this is ever even aired or whatever. What do you call it on YouTube? Digitalized. Their head coach would be somewhere else. They've already lost their quarterback. You know, JJ McCarthy's gone to the NFL. Other players are done, et cetera. Dude, is Michigan going to be that Comet program? What's your take on it right now without knowing what's coming in the spring? Comet means it comes,
I know.
it looks bright, and it goes away again.
I'm channeling David Putty, from Seinfeld, where
Yeah.
he tells Elaine she thinks she's going to hell and he
Yeah.
doesn't even care. And he goes, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah. Or when she wants him to get the New York Times from the other state. What does it matter? You're going to hell all the way. You're already going to hell anyway.
What do you care? You're going to hell already.
Yeah. But anyway,
David, don't you even care?
yeah.
There's likely crows in the heat. And he says, it's gonna be rough.
So what do you think? Yeah.
They had the guy who was the true believer, the Michigan man, the protege of Bo, and he even tried to look like Bo, didn't he?
He was a protege.
Yeah, he was a protege. Hey, that's good. I like
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. I never thought Harbaugh was going to win a damn thing. I said it. I said it multiple times in 2015 when he was hired. I thought he would be too intractable, and that he had three guys in his division who could chip at him from different directions: D'Antonio, Meyer, and Franklin.
Yeah.
And Franklin could get the speed kind of guys and athletes and beat him. He did beat him and beat him bad a couple times. A different kind of team to play. D'Antonio was a grinder who was just a burr up his saddle, all the time, in state, the little brother thing. And then Urban Meyer was Urban Meyer. You say whatever you wanted about him. I mean, he knew how to coach tough football players. And it was like a triumvirate that I thought they would wear him out and then he'd finally go to the NFL, and it was that close to being right when he got that Vikings interview 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You forget, man. Everyone forgets in Michigan, they wanted his ass out of there.
Oh,
He couldn't beat Ohio State.
Adios.
They wanted him out of there. All of a sudden, he's the conquering hero because Meyer was kind of forced out, D'Antonio out, and those two situations completely changed. They kind of turn into finesse athletic programs, and Franklin always was. All of a sudden, in the radio business, they call it a niche, where you have a niche of listenership that's open and then free. It's a programming opportunity. Well, the program opportunity of a tough smash mouth football team was all of a sudden open, and Jim Harbaugh very easily filled it, and they took off.
Hey, the Connor Stallion stuff to the side. I'm never going to forget that, though. That was a concerted effort to break an NCAA rule.
Yeah, it was like
They can,
I compared it to the Houston Astros, wouldn't you? I think
yeah. Oh
it's
yeah,
like everyone tries to steal signs, but not like this,
yeah.
not
I
like
mean,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one thing about stealing signs the day of the game, or having past knowledge of what went on. But there's another thing about having concerted effort of breaking an NCAA rule,
Yeah.
and we'll see where that investigation finally ends up. And really, I do care about seeing that followed up on, but it's past now. But my point is that team that beat Alabama and then won the national championship this past year, that was a hell of a football team.
Oh yeah.
It was almost a throwback,
It was a throwback.
advantageous taking,
Yeah.
otherwise control the game at the line of scrimmage.
They won at
Football team.
scrimmage, Timbo.
I
And
know, man.
I guess I hadn't seen enough SEC this year because I put everything I have into the Big Ten, doing the Big Ten Power Poll every damn week and watching bad football. I'm watching Northwestern Iowa instead of
Yeah.
Alabama, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. And unfortunately, but I didn't realize that maybe Alabama wasn't Alabama at scrimmage, where they had that big badass alignment that they used to do on defense, and earth movers on offense. They didn't really have either one.
No.
But Michigan was better than they were at scrimmage. And Michigan tried to piss that game away, but they didn't do it, because when they needed a drive at the end, that 4th and 2 play was a beautifully designed play.
Yep.
I think Shawn Moore did a hell of a job in a tough situation.
Yeah.
He came in here and made very, very good tactical decisions in game. He decided that they could not block Chop Robinson, and they were going to try, man. They were just going to run, and wear down Penn State that way, and it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. It was 23-15. It wasn't really that close.
Instead, they chopped Chop Robinson.
Well, they just grounded him to death. It was ground, and that was the way they could win. He was pragmatic. He was Shawn Moore. So I think they'll probably hire Shawn Moore if Harbaugh, say, takes either the Falcons or the Chargers job, but they won't be that presence.
Yeah.
And Harbaugh is weird. We both know he's a strange dude.
Oh yeah.
He's a strange bird, but he is a believer, man. He is a true blue Michigan man believer, and that is a valuable thing.
And I'm going to say this, dude, he got it done at Stanford. I think he had Andrew Luck then, but he got it done at Stanford, and a really good running back. What was it, Toby Gerhart? Was that on that Stanford team?
Yep.
He got it done at Stanford. He got it done with the San Francisco 49ers, and it was the two Harbaugh brothers battling for the Super Bowl championship. And I thought the 49ers got screwed on that last drive when they had a chance to win the game, but that's another story. Bottom line is, what a game. You can't argue with the fact that finally he got it done at Michigan. The hook part is cool. The crook part is the part, that's just will always leave a bitter taste in your mouth looking back on those teams, because probably it didn't have to be that way. And I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, it's like that the Astros won without cheating, then again, and everyone hates them. And they're Slytherin house and Harry Potter. Everyone hates them.
Yeah.
But they proved it really wasn't about the sign stealing, and so did Michigan. So you can hate them. And
so why do it?
That's right. Why do it? But why be?
Well, you saw why I do it, because even J.J. McCarthy made that comment at the national championship press conferences about, well, other people were stealing our signs, and
Oh, it's the college football has always been slimy, dirty business.
Oh,
It has. And it always has been a lot closer to the NFL than anyone ever realized. And it's becoming closer all the time, because TV is going to control it. And they actually want a 32-team college football, lower version of the NFL. And that's what they're going to get. They're going to get the Super Bowl.
I don't want that.
But what was, huh?
I don't want that.
No, well, that's what they're going to get,
because rosters aren't equipped for
TV
that kind of wear and tear.
TV runs it, and that's what they want. But my point is, what were the Oakland Raiders? The cheatinest, nastiest black hat in NFL history. The 1980s Oakland Raiders. What was their motto?
Just win,
Cheating,
baby.
no, but there was a better one.
What?
And Matt Millen said it many times. Rule number one, cheating is encouraged. Rule number two, see rule number
See
one.
rule number one. Sounds like NASCAR in the old days.
If cheating ain't trying.
Hey, last thing, we got to go here because this thing always, whenever you and I are talking, it always goes into tangential territory,
Yes,
like
it
an
does.
octopus,
Yeah.
and you have to have a central part of the octopus. But back to the center part. So this new look, Big Ten, with Washington, you thought you really thought the big get was USC way back when, right? 2 years ago. But the big get is really Washington and Oregon. Those two programs coming in
I
now.
agree. Yeah.
Along with USC and UCLA, their little brother UCLA. Dude, it's in our lifetime, heck, just in the last 30 years, it's crazy how much college football is changed. And now, like I was talking with Paul Feinbaum about this, you got the big two, and then you got the next two, which are the Atlantic Coast Conference and the revamped Big 12, which has UCF in it. And then you've got the AYOs now. But so there's really two superpowers, two wannabe superpowers, conferences, and then AYO. So how would you, as a longtime aficionado of major college football, how would you explain this to fans now of what to watch this season? Do you think this is ultimately going to be really good for college football, or do you think there's too much consolidation going on of the blue bloods?
This is going to take a couple minutes, so you got to bear with me. But I went through a couple years ago when I heard the USC UCLA thing immediately, and I think you did too, knew that was the end of the Pac-12. That was the end of that conference, and that was the end of the Rose Bowl. And I was pissed off and bitter because
the traditional Rose Bowl since
grow up
1947.
Where I grew up in Circleville, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio. The Rose Bowl was this mystical thing, man, where your Midwestern team got to go out there, and it was like a fairy tale, man. In the middle of the first week of January, 1st of January, always on the first. That's something I valued, and I knew it was all over. And it took me like probably 6 or 8 weeks and a couple or 3
Wait a minute,
really
six or 8 tearful weeks, or 6 or 8 just regular weeks?
No, it took me like 2 or 3 really bitter columns where I'm a columnist, and that's what I do. And I just vented. I vented at Fox and Disney and the people who did this, because that's who did this. Fox served this up. Fox served this up to Carol Folt, the president of USC, and said, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this?" And she said, she doesn't care about college football. She doesn't care about what we care about. Yeah. She doesn't care. All she cares about is what these TV execs care about, which is
how much money?
Making money.
Yeah.
So it was dead then. It took me a few weeks, a few months to get my mind around that. Now I'm thinking, especially after Washington, Oregon, I'm starting to think like a freaking suit, a network suit. I'm like, a Bob Knight and that quote to Connie Chung,
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? If rape is inevitable, just lie back and enjoy it. Which
you'd have to dredge that up. Go ahead.
Which is repulsive, and he would have been fired for it now.
Yeah.
But the gist of the message is the same to me. I'm just like, if this is the way it's going to be, then I'm going to start thinking like a TV executive if I want this in a certain direction, because this is what they want. This is what I said. They want a 32-team facsimile of the NFL that can maximize profit.
Yeah.
And the Purdues and the Northwesterns and the Indianas are going away, man. They are going away. It's only a matter of time. It's just a matter of time when we get there. So this is a transition period. This is no more permanent than when they first started the BCS and introduced the playoff. You knew that wasn't the end of it. The 4-team playoff, even though we'd gone through, 9 years of this, you knew it was going to finally transition to a big playoff, and it finally has.
Yeah.
Within our lives, there's going to be a super conference. I don't know why the Big Ten didn't just invite Utah and Colorado and connect the country. That would have almost been contiguous states, because you'd have Nebraska, Colorado is contiguous, Utah is contiguous, and you could own the northern tier of the country, call it the Continental Conference or something.
Yeah,
And
but
20 teams. Now they weren't pro rata, which means bang for the buck, like Washington and
yeah,
Oregon are, but Utah is close, and you would have connected the entire northern tier of the country.
there's
Because
stops. There's stops along the Oregon Trail.
yeah. It's like the Lewis and Clark.
But
Well,
the old saying goes, you know, in the modern age of air travel, et cetera, do you even need contiguous states
I
to make?
just think it would have been no, you don't.
I mean,
It would have been a selling point that we are actually all
oh
one.
yeah, oh I know. Well, you know, softball team on your 3-day van trip out to Southern Cal. Remember, you're going through contiguous Big Ten states.
Maybe you could go back to train traveling and
Yeah,
just hit one
Golden
game and
Spike.
just stay on the train for 13 weeks.
Yeah, you could have a Golden
I
Spike ceremony again, linking you know, those 4 teams from the Pac-12 with the 12 teams.
I actually picked out, just for fun, I went into the gender equity in athletics database, and I do it every year, and picked out the top 32 gross revenue football programs. And I put those in geographic divisions. It all works out, man.
Oh yeah,
It works out perfectly. I'll
yeah,
send you my divisions. I've got
yeah,
eight 4-team divisions, just like the NFL.
yeah.
And everyone else is out. And you could even have relegation and promotion, like the Premier League in soccer. If you start making more money, okay, we'll let you in and we'll kick somebody out.
Dave, we've talked about this before. You don't remember. We've talked about this several
Yeah.
times.
Did we?
But
Okay.
but do you want? Here's the thing. You think that's what you want, right? But do you want your hallowed program being possibly 7-5 every other year? You understand what I'm saying? When you put like programs together in a super conference,
Well, I'll tell you what, man, you wouldn't have Ohio
you're going to
State.
have winners and losers. Is my
I
point.
know, but you wouldn't have Ohio State playing Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall at the start of the year.
That's what I'm saying.
Every game would be holy crap. And
Believe me,
that
an L
would
is an L, buddy.
huh? Yeah. Well, that would help the product.
Yeah.
And if everyone's making lots of money, yeah, I think everyone would be on board.
But what you'd be saying, yeah, but we're still going to make the 16-team playoff. You know, half the teams will get into the playoff. Is that what you're saying out of 32?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
No, 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm
12 out of
saying.
32.
Yeah, I don't believe in buys.
Yeah. And the pie, we're talking about an age where there's a collective bargaining unit for the players, where there's a CBA, where they agree on limits for NIL and the portal, and you can't transfer until a certain time, where this Wild West is finally ordered. If you have this, you need that.
Yeah,
You need
I'm with you on that.
orderly, budgetable. Every year, the revenue is the same.
The word?
They would have to work out recruiting some way, and maybe make that into I don't even know.
The compound 4-letter word, or double 4-letter word, though, they've got to wrap their heads around, is contracts. And that seems a lot. That seems
union. That's the
exactly.
one they get their mind.
Well, that's a 5-letter word.
Yeah,
but a 4-letter word to
it's
many.
A 4-letter word in the South, baby.
Correct. But you know, I don't know if they're going to get. They've got to get there if they want to hang on to it. You know, right now is that moment. Right now is that moment when the volcano is.
But they always drag their feet. Brett freaking Kavanaugh, not exactly a liberal union guy.
Correct.
Put it out there 2 years ago. These kids are employees. They are employees in any other business. Yeah. This would not fly.
Yeah.
He said that.
They all get. But instead of getting a W-2, they all get 1099s.
It's ridiculous. So what you're only missing is the point where the SEC and the Big Ten decide to quit fighting each other, because if they're together in this, everyone makes a lot more money. If they have an overarching commissioner of the whole thing, everyone makes a ton more money if they're together.
But Dave, you forgot one thing. One of these things is not like the others. Greg Sankey, remember on the before the SEC championship game, lobbying for the SEC champion and possibly 2 teams to make the playoff this past year. one of these things is not like the other.
You knew the SEC would never be cut out of that tournament.
Correct. But they were cut out soon. They were cut out soon in what they call the first round of the tournament. Alabama was eliminated by everybody's favorite son, Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. But I digress. Hey, man, it's always a pleasure having you on, giving some insight into the Bill O'Brien hiring by Ohio State. What he brings to the table is not just X's and O's, but a leadership quotient and a toughness quotient, which I think he will imbue. Is that the right term? Onto this Ohio State.
Well, you made a good point too. Is that Ryan Day is going to acquiesce? He has taken 2 steps back, or he can't make this work. Bill O'Brien's got to run that offense. He knows that, or he wouldn't have hired him. So it's a sea change in Ohio State.
You remember those few times when Joe Paterno wasn't calling plays, but the few times he did.
Well, let me take it over, Franny. The Fran Gander, yeah. I mean,
yeah. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see how fidgety Ryan gets.
Well, he'd better not. He'd better not. There's gonna be fireworks on the sideline.
Exactly. Bill O'Brien and Ryan Day yelling at each other. That would be fun to watch, because I'm telling you, neither one of them would shy away from it. Ryan Day
I know who would win, and it wouldn't be Ryan Day.
Ryan Day is a gentleman in all kinds of ways, but Ryan Day has an edge to him that is only people know him well know about. I mean, it's going to be an interesting experiment.
Obi will be up in the booth, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what's going to be it. Who knows, right? We may not know that till game day, like they do at Ohio State on a lot of stuff. But that wasn't stipulated in anything I saw.
That'll be interesting. That'll be interesting because Obi is combustible.
Yeah. But anyway, hey, Dave Jones, once again from PennLive.com, the most sought after site in the Keystone State. Do I have that right? Did I read that right?
We're bigger than the Post-Gazette site or the Inquirers. Yeah.
We're bigger than GM.
It's true. True fact.
Oh, man. Thank you once again for joining the Tim May Show, my man.
Always a pleasure, Timbo. Great seeing you, dude.
And until next week, ladies and gentlemen, or until the next Tim May Show, they're kind of coming in rapid fire fashion. We'll see you then.